Good morning everyone, today is an update to the Braver guide, so I will be going over everything you need to know about the Braver, both for the katana as well as the bow. But before we jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So the very first thing I need to talk about is of course the skill points. So when we go to learn class skill over here and we go over to the Braver, and you can see that I have learned every single skill. So yes, you have enough skill points to learn everything. However, there are certain skills that you have a choice on. So for example, over here, Bow Alternate Arts PP Preservation. I only have 1 point over here, but you can put up to 5 points in order to decrease the PP consumption up to 30%. So you use a lot less photon power if you use the bow a lot. However, I personally do not use the bow that much, which is why I only put 1 point over here, which reduces my PP consumption by 10% whenever I alternate different photon arts with the bow. Now, if you are a katana braver only, you can save a lot of points. For example, slow landing photon bow, you don't need this. Brave combat arrow mates, you also don't need it. You can literally just go through all of the pictures with the bow and take away points there, and that way you'll have extra points which you can dump everything into Rest Effect Amplifier. So what Rest Effect Amplifier does is it simply just heals you more. It heals you 30% more, so it definitely helps quite a bit, especially if you are going a more tanky build like what I tend to do with Dreadkeeper 4s. Having this extra 30% healing is going to allow you to heal a lot more HP, and usually one rest assign is going to heal about like half of your HP bar, which is pretty awesome. However, in my case, I am playing a hybrid braver, so I do use the bow as well as the katana. However, I do tend to lean more towards the katana than the bow. Alright, with the skill tree out of the way, the next thing I want to talk about is of course our skills themselves. So I'm going to talk about the katana first. It's very simple. We have a normal attack, we have our weapon action, which is a counter as well as a block. We have Silver Leaf Storm, which is used for single target. We have Iris Gale, which is used for AoE. We have Lotus Lightning, which is our highest damage single target ability. However, it renders us immobile while we're casting it, so it's only good when an enemy is down or we know that the enemy's not going to be moving. Then this is really powerful. And of course we have Radiant Lilac, which is our mobility skill, which allows us to relocate and reposition ourselves. Now as for the bow, we have our normal attack, we have our weapon action, which is also a dodge, which also allows us to deal damage in between photon arts. We have our Flex Arrow, which is a great single target ability. We have Frenzy Fireworks, which is a great AoE ability. We have Dimensional Ray, which is a setup ability, so you cast this before you go into a fight. And then we have Ceaseless Draw, which is our highest damage ability on an immobile target. The thing about Ceaseless Draw is it's very similar to Lotus Lightning, that it locks you in place and you're very immobile and very vulnerable to a lot of different attacks. So with all the skills explained, I'm going to be showing you guys my weapon palette over here. As you can see, I actually utilize 5 weapon palettes, mainly because I do use 2 different katanas, and I also have a bow weapon palette over here. So we're just going to be going over my main weapon over here, which is a Neo A katana with a fixed attack 3, but it is multi-weapon with a bow. That is why, even though I have bow photon arts over here, you can see that the weapon picture over here is still a katana. It's because my Neo A katana is the main weapon and the bow is the sub weapon, and I multi-weapon them together. So my main weapon palette is very simple. I've got normal attack on my left click, I've got Iris Gale on my right click, and then I have weapon action on my mouse 4. Now by default this won't be mouse 4, this will be mouse 3, which is like the scroll wheel click. So I did change that in the options because it's just easier to click mouse 4 for me. And then for my back palette, I have normal attack, Lotus Lightning, as well as weapon action. So this is my main weapon palette, mainly because it's AoE as well as single target when the enemy is down. Then I have a boss weapon palette over here where I exchange Iris Gale into Silver Leaf Storm, because Silver Leaf Storm is very good for single targets and very good for bosses because it allows you to animation cancel, and that way you can reposition very smoothly to avoid enemy attacks or to weapon action immediately in order to pull off those counters. And then for my back palette, again it is only Lotus Lightning because I'm going to be using this ability whenever I down the boss. Now as for my bow weapon palette, I only have a bossing weapon palette over here. I do not have an AoE version. However, if you want to use an AoE version, you simply switch out Flex Arrow with Frenzy Frenzy Arrow. Frenzy Arrow is your AoE skill, is the equivalent to Iris Gale. Basically, you're just going to explode everything, tons of AoE, kills everything very, very quickly. The only downside is, as you can see from the potency, the damage is going to be a little bit lower than all of the other bow Photon Arts. However, if you compare it with Iris Gale, you know, Iris Gale is only 320 potency versus Frenzy Fireworks, which is 460. So using a bow as an AoE mobbing weapon isn't a bad idea either. But in my case, I only use the bow against bosses, which is why I've got normal attack, I've got flex arrow, and I've got weapon action. Again, the reason why I use Flex Arrow is because it's very similar to Silverleaf Storm in the sense that you can animation cancel and reposition yourself very easily, especially with the help of weapon action, because remember, the weapon action for the bow is actually a dodge, so it's actually going to move your character physically. So the weapon action synergizes with Flex Arrow very well. Now as for my back palette, I've got normal attack, and then I've got Ceaseless Draw, and then weapon action again. Ceaseless Draw is very, very powerful. However, again, it has the same weakness as Lotus Lightning in the sense that you can't move when you're casting it, and you do need to charge it up in order to deal the maximum amount of damage. Alright, with the explanation of my weapon palettes out of the way, I'm just going to be showing you guys all the different scenarios. So the very first scenario is you're surrounded by enemies and you just need to AoE everything down. You're just going to be casting Iris Gale 3 times into a normal attack. So count with me. 1, 2, 3, normal attack. You see, every time you cast 3 Photon Arts, your next normal attack is going to be empowered. Now you can mix and match. You do not need to cast 3 casts of Iris Gale in order to get this empowered attack. You can mix things up. For example, let me use my Radiant Lilac, which is on my sub palette. You can see right here on my sub palette, it's on my number 3 key. I actually keep a lot of abilities down here that I usually need to cast occasionally, but I don't want to put on my weapon palette. So there's the Radiant Lilac for repositioning myself. And then I also have Dimensional Ray over here for setup. So you can see my Dimensional Ray, I can charge up and boom, it's set up this aura over here, which is going to allow me to deal additional damage. And as for my Radiant Lilac, you can see over here that I can reposition myself with this ability. So what I'm going to show you over here is I'm going to use Radiant Lilac twice into Iris Gale into an empowered attack. So as you can see over here, it's going to be Radiant Lilac, Iris Gale, normal attack. You see my normal attack is also empowered. So if you just do a regular normal attack, this is what it looks like. It's very normal, you know, nothing special. It's not going to deal a lot of damage. However, if you do an empowered normal attack, it deals additional damage and it's also a hit scan. That's very important. You can actually hit enemies a lot further than you with the empowered attack. So I'm going to show you what the empowered attack looks like again. 1, 2, 3. Empowered attack. You see that slash? Those 3 or 4 slashes are a hit scan. As you can see, it was actually further than my character because it actually reaches that far. It's very, very powerful. Now let's say we downed a boss enemy or like a high value target, then immediately I'm going to switch to my back palette over here, which is Lotus Lightning. Lotus Lightning, as you can see over here, you are stationary. You are stationary in place. You can't move when you're casting this ability, which means you are very vulnerable to enemy attacks, and you know, you can get hit out of the air, you could get knocked down. You're very, very vulnerable, but you deal a ton of damage while you're casting Lotus Lightning. So that is the reason why you use Lotus Lightning whenever there is a downed immobile target which can't fight back. Because if you're casting Lotus Lightning over here and the enemy just flies away or just moves out of your effective range, then you're just kind of standing there like a sitting duck and the enemies can just knock you out of the sky and beat you up, and it's just not a good idea, which is why you only want to use Lotus Lightning when you down a boss enemy or if you break an enemy, and this is the time where you need to do a lot of DPS. Lotus Lightning is going to be your best friend. But now let's move over to my next weapon palette, which is used for bossing. The reason why we use Silverleaf Storm is because, as you can see, if I hold down a direction, I will slowly move towards that direction while I'm casting the Photon Art. You can see in between each Photon Art, I will slowly move in the air because that's how this works, which is very, very nice. That way, if the boss is constantly moving, I can reposition and follow them so that I don't lose any DPS or if they don't move out of my effective range. Now to talk about my bow weapon palette over here, the very first thing you want to do before starting a fight is to charge your Dimensional Ray. Dimensional Ray has multiple charges. You can just tap it to shoot arrows like that. However, what you want to do is you want to hold it, you're going to get this flash, this purple flash, and then you're going to charge it. Then you're going to see that you have these two little ribbons kind of flying around you, and that's going to give you additional damage whenever you hit an enemy with a Photon Art. So the very first thing you can do when you start off a boss fight is you can actually charge up Flex Arrow to its maximum charge. This is what it looks like at its maximum charge. This is a level 3 charge. You are immobile when this happens. As you can see, I can press my WASD keys. You can only aim around. However, your character is stuck in place. And once you fire this, you'll deal a ton of damage with that attack. However, it takes forever to charge up, which is why it's only good for an opening attack. Because let's take a look at how long it charges up. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. 3 seconds, all right? It takes 3 seconds to fully charge up like this in order to get your crazy Flex Arrow shot. However, Flex Arrow has multiple charge stages. You can actually just do this. You see over here, you just tap it and immediately you weapon action. So it feels very similar to Silver Leaf Storm in the sense that you're attacking, weapon action, attacking, weapon action, attacking, weapon action in order to move and follow an enemy in a specific direction. Now, of course, with Silver Leaf Storm, it's a lot easier. You just hold down the button and then you just hold down a direction that you want to go. And you just need to remember to count 1, 2, 3, normal attack. 1, 2, 3, normal attack. Oh, the bow, on the other hand, it's going to be Photon Art, weapon action, Photon Art, weapon action, Photon Art, weapon action. And you can see that I'm slowly moving towards whatever direction that I want to, and it's going to be even easier if you lock onto an enemy, because once you lock onto the enemy, you can simply just strafe left and right or move backwards and just slowly kite the enemy while you deal damage. However, remember when we looked at the skill tree earlier, there is an ability that reduces the cost of our Photon Arts if we use different Photon Arts. I personally only put 1 point in that because I don't like to mix around with my Photon Arts that much with the bow personally. I like to just spam Flex Arrow as well as weapon action over and over and over, and then once my Dimensional Ray expires after 5 Photon Arts, I recast it and I recharge it, and then again I'm just spamming Flex Arrow as well as weapon action. However, this is not the optimal way to play the bow. If you want to play the bow efficiently, you want to mix up all of your different Photon Arts and cycle through a couple of them in order to benefit from that 30% PP reduction between all of your different Photon Arts. But personally for me, I find that too complicated and I just want to spam Flex Arrow, so that's what I do. Now once the boss is down, this is where I use Ceaseless Draw. So Ceaseless Draw, if you tap it, you simply just move backwards and just do one single attack. However, we're not going to do that. We're going to charge it up. And once you see this purple flash, then you let go and you can see it's a string of attacks. This is all one attack, by the way. So you do this, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this attack is the last attack, is the one that hits the hardest. So you want to make sure that you hit that attack. But yeah, basically because that animation is so long, let's see. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. It's 4 seconds where you are immobile, you are stuck there, and if anything hits you, you will get knocked out of that attack. So you are very, very vulnerable when you're doing Ceaseless Draw, but that attack deals massive amounts of damage. Alright, last but not least, I need to talk about the Katana's weapon action, which is also our counter. So if you just hold down the weapon action, it will just block any enemy attack at the cost of photon power. If you have no photon power, you cannot block with the Braver. You actually it just breaks your block and you take damage and you can get knocked down, alright? However, if you do have photon power, you simply hold down weapon action and you'll just block indefinitely until you run out of photon power. Now, if you time the weapon action the moment you get hit, you actually do a counter attack. And right after the counter attack, you can do an empowered normal attack right after that, which also deals tons and tons of damage. Now, another thing is you can also sidestep. The moment you do a sidestep and you do any Photon Art, it's automatically going to do the third charge of that Photon Art, which is going to deal additional damage. And on top of that, again, you can use an empowered normal attack right after the third charge. So with all that being said, I'm just going to show you against this Bujin over here. I'm going to show you what exactly I mean about the Katana first, and then I'll showcase the bow. So with the Katana, it's very simple. We're simply just going to time all of our attacks. You can see there's a counter. So this is what I mean by just practicing. You can literally just sit here and just practice your different weapon actions in order to get the perfect attacks. Let's see, boom, empowered normal attack, counter, okay, hit me again please, counter, empowered normal attack. And as you can see, it is a hit scan. So even though the boss is a little bit further, that still hits, that normal attack still hits. So you just want to get really comfortable with your weapon action because it does a lot of damage. So that was 2000 damage by that weapon action. That was another 2000 damage. And once the boss is down, then we use our Lotus Lightning. As you can see, the boss can't do anything to us. So we can deal massive amounts of damage and just rip through the boss really quickly. Again, he's back up. We're just going to be countering again into normal attacks, counter, normal attacks, counter, normal attacks, 1, 2, counter, normal attacks, and counter normal attacks again. And you can see, very simple. The katana is all about countering, and normal attacking. Now, of course, you can use your Photon Arts into the 1, 2, 3 empowered normal attack, but the majority, if you want to be effective with the Katana Braver, is going to be a lot of countering, okay? But now let's try this again, but with the Bow Braver. So the Bow Braver, at the very beginning, you want to make sure that you use your dimensional arrow. As you can see right here, I've casted it, so I've got my 2 little ribbons that are floating around. And then once we start over here, we can actually start out charging our flex arrow if you really want to be effective. But we're going to wait. We can see here, we lock onto the enemy, we charge up our flex arrow, and boom, big damage. You can see 6000 damage. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to lock onto the boss and we're just going to kite him around. As you can see, flex arrow, weapon action, flex arrow, weapon action. But you can see that my dimensional arrow is already gone. So I need to recast my dimensional arrow. Boom. And again, flex arrow, weapon action, flex arrow, weapon action. And I'm just moving around the boss, just kiting it. Now, something to keep in mind is after a couple Photon Arts, you will actually get an empowered normal attack. As you can see right here, that was a big shotgun attack. So you do need to pay attention to that. The way you can see it is there's actually a little bow symbol on top of my drop attack. As you can see where my diving attack is, I'm going to just zoom in the camera post edit, and you can see there's a little bow symbol there. And when that bow symbol is maxed out, that means you have an empowered normal attack with the bow as well. Now, of course, you can use the weapon action to actually dodge the enemy attacks, as you can see there. Because if you dodge an attack with the weapon action and normal attack, you get like an equivalent of an empowered normal attack as well. So you can see over here, boom. You get these little turrets that come out, which actually deal damage, which is pretty awesome. And you also get a lot of photon power back. So again, we're bing, you can see, bing. And I can just keep sidestepping and keep summoning all of these turrets. You can see that I shot maybe like 9 arrows there. And immediately the Bujin is now pissed off at me. But now he's busted. So now we use our ceaseless draw. 1, 2, 3, and bam. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, and bam. But I forgot I didn't have my dimensional arrows there earlier, so I did miss out on a little bit of damage. But as you can see, you can just play really safe with the bow if you want to. However, if you want extra damage or if you're just very comfortable, you can actually use your weapon action over here in order to constantly dodge and deal tons of damage to the boss more quickly, right? But you need to be very comfortable with the bow, or at least with dodging or sidestepping in order to do this, because, well, you know, if you get hit with the bow, you tend to take quite a bit of damage. So as you can see over here, come on, hit me, boom. Hit me again. Oh, never mind, he's dead. Easy peasy. So that is the bow gameplay style. So at the end of the day, the katana as well as the bow playstyles are very similar. It's just with the bow, you are going to be sidestepping and dodging a lot more, versus the katana, you're going to be countering a lot more. But both playstyles are perfectly valid and very fun to play. Now, the katana is still a little bit stronger than the bow at the moment. I do hope that the bow gets even more buffs in order to catch up to the katana, because the katana playstyle is just smoother than the bow playstyle. The bow playstyle, you kind of feel like you're playing an 80 carry in League of Legends, where you're constantly stutter stepping, versus the katana, where it feels like you're just dancing on the battlefield and just killing everything and causing havoc. Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again. But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.